It is connecting, it's setting up the meeting.
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. I see it.
There we go. It is
Oh,
connecting.
I see it now.
Okay,
How you
setting
doing?
up the meeting.
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. I see it.
Now
There
let
we
me
go.
just mute that so that we can have our time together. We're gonna just take 5 minute, well, 5 second pause. Stare awkwardly at each other as I tell everybody. For 5 seconds. Okay. Well, it is with great honor to be with you once again, and it's so interesting the times that we are currently living in. We see that small businesses are quietly closing at a rapid pace, and there's been an increase since this has been tracked due to the current pandemic. Yet, on the flip side, there has been a surge in business applications over the past few months in the year of 2020. Americans are starting new businesses at the fastest rate in more than a decade. And applications for employer identification numbers, which is that EIN number that everybody gets happy about because it's like, I am official. Well, the entrepreneurs, we need that to start, but they have passed 3.2 million issuance of EIN numbers this year alone compared to 2.7 million at the same point in 2019, so a year ago. And this is according to the US Census Bureau. So while companies, many of these companies are small, collectively, the impact that they have is just absolutely substantial to the economic wealth, also the economy, just in the world as a whole. I am just absolutely delighted to have in studio, virtual studio, I should say, Miss Fay Fleming, business performance company, and she is going to share a little bit about leadership strategies on playing to win the game of business. And I'm going to share a little bit more about what that is, but that's the gist of where we're going to land today. I want to welcome you at this point to Conversations in the Nick of Time, where we focus and unpack leadership accidents and leadership excellence. We know that those of us who are actually making some noise and splashing some water, that means making some things happen, you're going to have both. Actually, you need both to grow, to mature, to understand the tenacity that you have, and to make sure you're in the right space. So I welcome you to Conversations in the Nick of Time. I am your host, Nikki Roach. The show is powered by Sparkman Pathway to Careers and KSTL 690 AM, headquartered in the Midwest, heard globally. Just absolutely delighted to be here. I'm also coming off a high because I've been in the Inc. 5,000 Vision Conference all day. And I had a chance to hear a number of different speakers. Jim Quick was one of them, who talks about how to interpret and how to learn and how to read at exceptional paces. And then also Damon John with Fubu and the Shark Tank, and he's an author and so many other things. But he provided these 5 strategies, which I think were so relevant to the conversation that we're going to have with Lady Faye. One was set a goal, but make it clear, not goals initially with an S, but a goal. What is the goal and make it realistic? Number 2, do your homework. 3, adore. Absolutely love what you do. 4, remember you are the brand, not the service, not the product. And then keep swimming. It says be nimble, relentless, and more because a shark doesn't die if it keeps moving. And I thought that was just relevant to the conversation. But as I bring those, I want to bring some of that back to this conversation when we're talking about with Faye Fleming about winning this game of business. Just a little background about who she is and all her greatness. I personally am just honored, absolutely honored to have her on this platform. But she is the managing director of the Business Performance Company, an award winning business consulting firm, a seasoned strategist and national marketing researcher, and her personal mission is to equip businesses and business professionals with the intellect they need to attain more success with less struggle. Love that. Faye has worked with more than 125 brands from startups to Fortune 500 companies, including GM, Edward Jones, NASA, Victoria's Secret, and Target, just to name a few. She's a published author and former business columnist. Ms. Fleming has been featured by CNN, ABC, NBC, Fox, and I could say some more alphabets, but I'm going to stop right there. Numerous awards to her acclaim. And when we finish this conversation, you will see the reason behind my excitement and the in-depthness that she provides. How are you?
I am blessed and grateful. And thank you so much for having me on this show. I'm so excited about being in your space, but also I am now doing something I would do for free, which is to allow people to have just a little bit of hope based on some intellect and some things that will actually work so they can move their feet. So thank you.
No, this is an honor. And then I know that we are in such an interesting time right now. And as I mentioned in that data, according to the US Census Bureau, there are so many people who are leaving businesses, but yet there's a whole another crop. And I would say, we had off-air conversation and you were alluding to some of those same people who are leaving are still going back in. What's your comments about that?
Well, first, I want to congratulate all the people who have been pushed out, put out of organizations, who have had their businesses collapse based upon what we're involved in right now in this time that we're in. And in spite of that, they are joining me with not sitting around waiting for things to normalize, to get back to normal, waiting on the new normal. Because here's what I'm saying: let's step up and create the next normal. So all those people who are filing for EIN numbers and starting their own businesses, that gives me hope. And I want to applaud them, because when life is hard and you break into pieces, pick up those pieces, package them together, and make a little life out of them. And that's what people are doing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, you have such in-depth insight when it comes to this whole space of small business owners, entrepreneurship, leadership, even on a large scale. I know we have a number of things we wanted to dive into today, but what would you say has been like one of the struggles that you've noticed that's trending even before COVID?
Well, I would say that one of the biggest detriments to our business environment and our ability as US citizens to compete in the global marketplace is this comfort level we have with mediocrity.
Ah, interesting.
And when you layer on top of that this new environment, both socially, politically, spiritually, where people are in positions where the more global the world becomes, the more tribal people act. And that means a lot of things that we took as business norms or expectations about how to run a business, what business etiquette looks like, have been tossed out of the window.
This mediocrity. Okay, that should be shaking some of us just a little bit
Because mediocrity says good is okay.
yeah, okay.
What did the book say? Good is the enemy of great. Mediocrity says, well, they're only paying me for X, so I'm going to give them X. Mediocrity says, you don't really have to look that good on a Zoom call, right? You can just roll out of bed and everybody knows that we're in this new environment, which is the flip side of where I live and the people I work with, and hopefully all the clients that we cater to, is that if it's not excellent, there's other things to be done.
Wow.
And we pursue it until every insight, every strategy, every quote that we can put into a speaking engagement, until it's at excellence, you still have work to do.
Yeah. And then do you think we ever arrive at excellence?
I think that for me and for my team, and when I say my team, I'm including vendors, people I mentor, people who mentor me, everybody that's on my bench in my company. Um, Excellence is an ever evolving concept, right?
Okay.
So I'm always competing against what we did last year. If we could do it at that level last year, there's new technology, there's new intel, there's new circumstances. You think we're pretty good? All right, it's COVID. Let's innovate.
But isn't that dizzying to us at some point to where we're constantly trying to outdo ourselves or constantly trying to be better? Or is that just back to somewhat of being comfortable?
I think that people consciously or unconsciously decide for themselves how they want to walk out this life, right? And for some people, always striving to be even more excellent seems like a really hard thing. In my book, there's nothing harder than failing over and over again, being last all the time. To me, that would truly be something that would defeat my soul, that would pull my energy, that I wouldn't even be able to be hopeful around. It's hard being mediocre every day. And I just don't believe that people wake up, show up either digitally, virtually, or on a job site and say, I want to suck today. I want to be the worst employee they have. I just don't believe people do that.
And even how we show up, I know a lot of times I will say that I am so over us, and I'm included in that. So how we are so fanatic about celebrating shallow victories. And when I say shallow victories, I mean we're celebrating stuff we're supposed to be doing. Like you're supposed to be going to work and giving your all. We're supposed to be striving for more, but some of the more is still very shallow. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't celebrate certain things, but I think we find ourselves just living in that space.
Well, there's a lot of company there. There's a crowd living in that space.
Company.
So research that we've done for years and years, and most of our research is national. We've done some international work.
Okay.
There are some commonalities. One of them is that when you ask people to talk about their personal brand, and if you give them a role play and say, okay, there's one job, there's three of you, tell me something about yourself that would make me want to hire you. The number one answer in the last 20 years has been, I'm a hard worker.
That's what I'm
But then I say to everyone in the room, whether it's 150 people or 1,500, please raise your hand if you also are a hard worker, right?
yeah.
And then I say to the people, so now do you understand? This does not differentiate you. This makes you be one of everybody else. Hard worker is not a brand. When you talk to CEOs, they say, we pay you to work hard. So when you work hard and we pay you, we're just even. I'm looking for you to elevate, to synergize, to collaborate at a higher level. I'm looking at you to come up with something that we can use to pull market share from our competitors. When you figure that out, come back and talk to us.
Yeah, that perfect example. Perfect example. And people don't, people meaning whether it's you owning the business or you running a business, leading a business, meaning, it's not yours, but you're an employee. But if you're an employer, oftentimes, yes, we do get caught up in that, like, oh, we want, we're after, um, we're the greatest of them all. No, why are you the greatest? Like, unpack that. And which is a great segue into one of the topics that I love just sitting back hearing you. We've had a chance to talk over the past year, and this whole concept of branding. And I mentioned earlier, and that's why I mentioned those 5 strategies earlier, to weave in like another voice that says branding is like, you cannot not have branding, whether you're a business, again, an employee or an employer. What is branding? Why does it matter?
Branding, personal branding. And when I say personal branding, that's you as a career professional, that's you running a business. Because often until you reach, I mean, even when your business becomes a, you know, billion-dollar organization all across the globe, someone at some point is going to look to see who's at the tippy top, right? Personal branding is really the best competitive tool or advantage that you can use to differentiate yourself and your company to compete strong against, if you're an employee, other people who do similar tasks or have the same job title, or if you're a company, to compete in your local market so you can be local famous, to compete in your city, your state, and globally, depending upon what product or service. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is, I hear people say all the time, I see articles, or I even see consultants that say, Nikki, come to me and we will help create your brand. Not so. Your brand came into existence the minute that you showed up. Because really, the crux of your brand is the experience that you give people. And based upon the experience that you give people, they make determinations about who you are, whether or not they like you, whether or not they can respect you, whether or not you would be good on their team, whether or not they want to include you in some preferential information that other people in the industry may have in advance. It's all based upon your personal brand. So it's never about creating a brand. It's about understanding this, the answer to this one question. Is your personal brand helping you deliver on the things you're trying to get done?
But we think I mean, just like individuals wanting to help us create our brand,
Mhm.
we, on the flip side, say, oh, I can handle it myself. And we go out and get apparel, and we'll drop some coins, as they say, to make sure it's all together and we look presentable. That's a personal thing. Um, we change up our hair, we do something drastic. Look, usually it's our look, how we sound, the different things. We spend so much time with which goes into more marketing, but the color schemes and the fonts and we think that is branding. If you could clear that up for us to let us know, like, mm, that's
So
part of it, but it's not. It's
those
not.
are all components, right? Think of it this way. If I were sitting in a room with a master mechanic and someone placed all the pieces to a car, one stack for me, one stack for him, guess which one of us would be able to put together a car? Now, I have sense enough to know that I got to have 4 tires, maybe I have to have a steering wheel. I know the components, I know the pieces and the parts, but the person who will actually build a car and drive away will not be me. Because a master mechanic not only understands the parts and pieces and components, but he understands how to put them together. And more importantly, once he puts this car together and drives down the road, if he hears a small click, then he knows how to diagnose that and switch out components and flex and pivot, right?
Right.
To be able to get this car to do what he feels like it needs to do. Walk that back in, that imagery back into, this is the way that you attach branding. Absolutely. Does it matter what you look like? Does it matter what your tonality is or how quickly or not you talk? All of that stuff does matter. But what matters more is how do you assemble your personal brand? How do you create the experience of Fay, right? Because here's the thing people used to say all of the time personal branding and being successful is all about who you know. Not true anymore. Next level thinking up is this it is not about who you know, it is about who knows you. And based upon what they know about you, what do they believe about you? And based upon that, what are they willing to do for you?
And then that's all about, again, the experience.
Absolutely.
Experience, not the visual, but that experience comes from internal.
Absolutely. And you know what? Quite frankly, anyone who has made it into the business world, either as a professional or a business owner, they already have the basics. Like, whom among us would show up to anyone's church in a bikini? Not so much. Because even if you've never been inside a church, you kind of already know
Oh, yeah, you know.
this is not the place for a bikini, right? So it's really not about the low level kinds of things in terms of publicizing yourselves or polishing yourself up, all of those things. It is about when you show up, what experience do you give people that they remember, that resonates with them? And when they see all of the other polish and deportment and all of that other stuff, is there a match? Do they say, ah, this person is being authentic? And based upon that, that makes me think they'll be consistent when they deal with me. And based upon that, I can trust that who Nikki is how she represents herself. And those are how choices are being made.
Wow. Now there is this whole idea also, especially when you're new into the leadership space. I know I went through it when I first began that mid management space to where, I mean, literally, I went in every 2 weeks, I bought a little, what I call my little men suits. And that's, the blue blazer with the matching pants and the matching skirt. And I wanted to look the part. This is real.
Yes,
Like, I'm sure I'm not the only one. As you say, I have company, probably. And you wanted to look the part. And I do believe there is a place for reflecting and demonstrating and displaying who we are. I think it complements who we are on the inside. But to switch gears to try to fit in, I learned quickly that is not going to put you in a place that people will like respect or think that you have this mindset like I that they're gonna know I fit in because I'm showing up like them, I'm
mm,
looking like them. But it actually ended up being like a straitjacket because I'm like, this is so not me. Like you feel like you're being choked out. That was my experience years ago. And then I finally had to just show up and be myself. And literally, I tapped into who I was. And the creative part of me started to show up. But I think I was trying so hard to be the part.
absolutely. What you have in common is that all the rest of us had those same kinds of experiences. My first position out of college, I worked for a Fortune 10 corporation. And oh my God, when I showed up and looked around, it did not take me long to realize that there was a certain expectation about how you dressed, how you showed up, how often you spoke, when you spoke, your tonality. Oh my God, there were all of these. And of course, none of these things are written in the onboarding manual, right?
These are the unwritten, right?
You learn about the bridge after you tripped and fell through it. And one of the stupid things I remember doing is one of the older women said to me, well, real professionals don't wear red fingernail polish. So for the first 5 years of my corporate career, oh my God, you would not, I wouldn't even wear red fingernail polish on the weekend in case I forgot to take it off for work, right? And like you, I got to a point in my career where I said two things. This is making me schizophrenic because I am withholding my personality, my natural way of being, and my own personal flow. And then the other thing I figured out is that people are fickle. And what they like today, they don't like tomorrow. And there's so much, there's so many people who hire people that they know, they hire their friends, their families. There's just so much of that in the workplace that it wouldn't even matter if I wore red fingernail polish. It
You know,
just took me a while to get to that place.
and we have shifted so much in these last few years, especially now that we have for the first time. I speak about this all the time on this platform. 5 generations, for the first time, 5 generations working in the workplace, some in some instances side by side.
Mhm.
And our idea of, I think, even personal branding, that's why I asked you for your interpretation of it, is so different. I mean, as far as East is from West, like everyone has a different take on it. There are some very common denominators amongst a whole, um, not the whole, but at least a core. Core is the word I want to use. And with that core, yes, it is about, and I think we are now truly, I think this new wave of leaders and this emerging leaders, and they're totally on board with what you're saying in regards to you have to show up, not your representative, is what I'm hearing.
Inherent upon that is for you to do the work ahead of time to check out that corporate culture, the way the organization lives. Check out the way people are rewarded or penalized. Check out the way that people get promotions. You need to do your own work first to then be able to say, this will be a good place for my brand. I'll grow, I'll be nurtured, or at least I won't be attacked, right?
Yeah, correct, correct.
But the onus is on you to do the work, which is the same thing that we can walk over into the space of excellent leadership.
And yeah, I love it. I love it.
Because you need to first lead yourself before you are now prepared to lead someone else. And the truth is that in business, most people who become first line managers or supervisors, no one pulls them aside and grooms them for 8 months and gives them all the secret sauce and the tips of the and tools to do it right. So when you
No,
decide to take those promotions, then again, it is incumbent upon you to first lead yourself, to first know what your own brand is, to first understand what are your philosophies around leadership, to understand what do you need above you, around you, and below you to be the best leader you can be.
and that's what you bring a great point in regards to being afforded the opportunity to fulfill a leadership role. And again, back to my own personal experience, it was congratulations. Here's your key. Here's your office. We'll circle back around. I'm still waiting, and that was more than what 12 years ago, if not more.
Well, see, for many people, that becomes a catch 22 because if they give you the keys to the kingdom, and after a couple of weeks, you say, oh, they left out what time the kingdom opens and closes. They left out, if you raise your hand, then it's, oh, well, you weren't ready. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
And yeah,
If
that's
you
what I was.
don't raise your hand, you can be undermined by vendors, by employees, from people all around you who say, what's wrong with Nikki? She's not getting this right.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with that in regards to like you do have to strike this balance, but it's you're already feeling, you're excited, but yet you're nervous, but yet you're not wanting to make any errors. But the thing is, you don't even know what you don't know. You don't even really know if what you do know even fits. So it's like you have all this going on and trying to still show up and be your best. And then you're in this uniform. It's like this uniform that we think fits the culture. So it's just all this stuff going on that we have to strip off
Right.
to even begin to show up and
Well,
even.
here's a couple of tips. The first thing is that give yourself permission to say, This is great. I am so humbled by it. However, I am still preparing. So, what I would like to do is to pass this along to someone who has been prepped, mentored, ready, whatever. And this is what I'm going to do. I'd like for you to work with me to make sure that I'm segueing appropriately so that the next opportunity, I can bring an even higher contribution to the company. See, most people would not even think about, oh my God, turning back a promotion. The other thing is that if you do nothing else, learn the person you'll be reporting to, because that person will have a huge impact on whether you live or die in the short run. I've worked for supervisors who have said to me, you need to be really hard on these people. You know, people like you and they think you're just friendly and collaborative. You need to hunker down on these people. And I've had some supervisors who have said, you know what, you'll find your way. And if you need help, I'll meet with you once a week and I'll help you gradually understand the corporation, the culture, and give you what it is you need. Those are two very different kinds of environment. So if nothing else, before you accept a promotion or switch to a different division or leave the company and go to a different company, the first thing you need to do is you need to say, what am I prepared to do? How is this going to be good for me? Where are the assets? Where are the benefits? Where are the rewards? What do I need to not only excel at this, but to feel good about the life I'm going to lead in this role, in this organization, in this time period?
Yeah, because we definitely, I know we are more effective and more present when we have a sense of contribution and we have a sense of value added. Like we're adding value. Even
And see, we need to figure out what that means for you, right? For me, adding value means I had a clear target, I had a clear goal, I had someone I could go to and say, hey, just want to clarify, or hey, this is not turning out the way, that I had someone above me that I could be authentic and frank with that could help me sort it out and move along. That's what I need. Some
yeah,
people
and
don't need or want that.
yeah, because what some things that I may need that autonomy. I don't need to be meeting all the time, or vice versa. And what's interesting about this, we mentioned those who are in the workplace, but even switching it over to the entrepreneur, understanding that how you show up for your team and those of you who are solopreneurs, you still have a team. Your vendors,
Mhm.
your anyone who's helping you with the marketing, anyone who's helping you with your product and your service. I don't care if it's packaging. That's still a part of your team. So these are very transferable tips that you provided, regardless what track you're on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're starting a business, why would you ever take a start into a business without, well, here's my first thing. If you are an employee who is now transferring into, I want to be my own business owner, the very first thing, the smartest thing I would advise you to do is your current company should be the first investor in your company. Because while you have direct deposit, you need to figure out the competitive environment, you need to figure out pricing, you need to figure out distribution, you need to understand who the vendors are. You need to do all of this while you still have direct deposit. Now, hear me, you still have to provide excellent work, but they should bankroll your transition into your own business.
So, oh my God, this topic alone right here is like I wish we had a megaphone for you to share that, because a lot of us at the end of 2019,
Mhm.
what were we? Oh my gosh, we're going into 2020 with new vision, and we were just dropping stuff that was sure stuff, meaning jobs.
Mhm.
Um, a, oh my gosh, I have a host of my sister friends who are, some are doing well as independent, as entrepreneur, as solopreneurs. Some are had to go back to the dual role. And meaning I'm running a business, but I'm also working at an organization. I had to go back to work. And some just kind of walked away from the entrepreneurial arm for now until they can circle back around to it to bank up some more money. because we don't realize, like, even going the entrepreneurial route or small business, like, you have to invest first, and you're not just any money that you're going to be bringing in, you're going to be pushing out. Like, it's already spent in a lot of cases. And I say the same thing. Your current, and I love how you say, your direct deposit is your first investment. I love how you language that.
Your current employer should be your very first
And
investor in your business. And think this through because, yes, it takes money, but some of it takes strategy, time, and talent, right? If you can't afford to pay for this, do you have a vendor who needs some research? Because one of the ways that years ago, when this company started, was bartering, collaborating. And you can do that right now. This environment is the prime time to get that done.
well, I'm going to go out on the limb here.
All right.
And so we met in an environment where a lot of that bartering takes place.
Mhm.
And there was a group of women, women doing some great things, business owners, some of them corporate, but still in leadership roles. And there were very few people of color, Black and brown people, women. And as I began to share this, I share my experience, and we've sat at a table before and we've kind of witnessed some of this together. And I went back and shared it with some of my sister friends, and I shared with them this whole concept of bartering and how could we pull together to do something just very informal but yet intentional.
Yes.
And it was they were like so all over it, but it was like, this is foreign. Like, really? This is like, we're gonna just, I'm like, yes. So you do this, you do that. So we are doing that. We are doing just that now. But it took us, it's what's been a year now. So it's been about, yeah, a year for us to get to the point to where we actually were serious about it. But I don't, do you think, we're ready for that bartering?
I think we are more than ready because I think it's a logistical transition, right? The hookup. What is the hookup? Black people hooking people up all the time.
But the thing is,
The
for us,
hookup, black girl magic. What is that? That is people sharing resources, information. I do a little bit of this, you do a little bit of that. We have our own lexicon. We have our own way about doing things, saying things, right? It's the same thing. We just have to formalize it, conceptualize it in a way that we see that this is how we do this in business.
I think I'm totally on board and in agreement. And but it was so interesting because I think it took us longer because it was like, what's the catch? Was a part of that conversation initially. And then it was also like, I don't want any handouts. And it's like, well, it's not, change your mindset about what this is. And it is truly, we are, this is like almost another form of iron sharpening iron. We're both going to win. We're both going to help each other. We're both going to, um, I would even say improve, like we both are going to reach a higher level of excellence.
Here's a thought. The most selfish thing you can do if you own a business is to help another business owner. Because when you do, you plant a seed that you will never know how it will get harvested. One of the biggest contracts we've ever gotten in the tenure of our company came about as a result of some research we did for a Fortune 50 corporation. 10 years later, they were doing some research. It was supposed to be just a small piece of research around African American customers. Someone remembered being in the room with me and my team, and 10 years later, went on LinkedIn, found me, and said, "Hey, I don't know if this is the right Fay Fleming." So fast forward, they're calling me in to do, 2 or 3 focus groups. At the end, they end up saying we're going to do African American, Caucasian, Hispanic focus groups. We're going to do them nationally. We're going to do 20. And so I said, well, look, I will support you by introducing you to Asian and Hispanic marketing research companies. And they came back within 2 weeks and said, no, we want your firm to be the lead firm. So based upon the fact that I'm trying to hook these people up, right, and introduce them to other companies, they came back to me and said, well, no, if you were smart enough to handpick those people, you handpick the companies, they work for you, we will work directly with you. It was the largest, it was like $400,000, which was the largest single contract my company's ever had.
But there's quite a few lessons in that are mulling over.
Right. So the most selfish thing I did was to continue to work in excellence, to attract other research companies from different ethnicity that are like-minded and like-valued, right? Like value with me, to present them to this big corporate client. And all along, my intent was to do the best thing for the corporation. And within 2 weeks, they came back and said, oh no, we want your team. We want you to lead it. We want your team to be the prime, and these other people can be subs. We want to only deal directly with you.
Wow. And then that takes us full circle back to how we started the conversation about branding, right?
Absolutely.
Branding and excellence. Um, I know you also have shifting gears. I want to thank those who are joining us and listening in. You're listening to Conversations in the Nick of Time. I'm your host, Nikki Roach, show powered by Sparkling Pathway to Careers and KSTL 690 AM. I am just delighted and honored to have with me today Fay Fleming, who is the managing director of Business Performance Company. She has been just so instrumental in helping professionals and businesses attain more success with less struggle. And in this whole space of more success with less struggle, you had some unwritten rules
Mm-hmm.
that you had mentioned to me. And we talked about, could we brush across it a little bit, but some unwritten rules. Walk us through a couple of those unwritten rules when it comes to business. What do you have for us?
Well, let me first say that my team and I have been working for the last 20 years in companies large and small. We work with everything from startups, mom and pop, to uh, international Fortune corporations. So we've gotten an opportunity to see people in a lot of different organizations and a lot of different situations. So I'm thankful to the smart people that I work with to help us bring this intellect. So the first thing I want to say is that you have to understand that there's basically only three ways to succeed. You can succeed by default, by struggle, or by strategy. So default looks like this. I'm up for a promotion. Susie gets the promotion, but her fiance now decides that he's taking a job in Chicago. She leaves, and guess what? By default, I get that promotion. Problem with that is, who has more control over my career? Me or the circumstance? The other way is to say, I want that promotion, I'm gonna earn it. And they say, well, Faye, you have to have an advanced degree. So I leave and I come back in 2 years and I say, I've missed all of my children's recital. I barely recognize what my husband looks like, but I've kept, my team tight, and I've met all of our goals, and I have that MBA. And they say, oh, that's really good. But you know what? You don't have cross-functional training. So now we need for you to do a year in this other division. Fast forward. The short story is that eventually I get the promotion. But oh my God, was it a struggle?
All that came with that.
The third way to succeed, the third way to succeed is what we're advocating, is that you succeed by strategy. And you get really clear on who you are, what your brand is, the best places for you to flourish, the best opportunity. You do the work, and then you cherry pick that. And as you go into new organizations or your business goes into new customer segments, any of that stuff, you are always being strategic about not just your customers now. Like if you're transitioning a business, you want to look at your old customers to transition into the best niche of now customers that will then prepare you for a launch into next customers, right? Because if you do it that way, you eliminate a lot of churn of time and information and resources because everything sequentially builds upon the other thing. If you are an employee, you're a career professional, you must understand that there are unwritten rules and unspoken relationships inside of every organization. You have to know it and then be smart enough to read the room to understand what those are. Because, we've spoken to people for the last 20 years who have said, I'm the highest grossing salesperson in this company. No one can touch me. And we come back 2 years later and they're not even at the corporation anymore. Or I'm the best accountant that they will ever have. Well, guess what? The person who had the job before you did was also the best accountant that they had before they moved him out of the chair and put you in, right? So you want to be very clear about your personal brand and what your competitive advantages are that you can build and how those make you unique, and not only unique, but preferable, right? It's like if you're in business, they say,
Top of mind.
yes. Well, and I want you to not be sucker punched by, I want people to be satisfied. Like if you're in business, oh, I want satisfied customers. We have this whole system of a net promoter where you look at how satisfied your customers are and you extrapolate into that their willingness to come back and do repeat business. But here's what I'm saying. What you need to be chasing is, do they prefer your business? Because that's where the gold is. If we've done some work for Starbucks, right? Starbucks drinkers, they're a different breed. If you're a Starbucks drinker, you will go around the block, you will look at a map and make sure that your appointments, if you work out in the field, are always near a Starbucks. You will change the pathway of how you drive to work to make sure you get a Starbucks. However, if you can go to Quick Trip and drink coffee, then you'll stop anywhere because you're satisfied with a cup of coffee. Not so if you prefer Starbucks. You will change your lifestyle and your routines to make sure that you get the product you prefer. So that's what we as business owners ought to be chasing. I want our clients to prefer doing business with us.
So you said, so shifting, that's profound. I'm following you, but I just want to make sure everyone else is too. Shifting from, what was the word you used?
So I'm shifting from, I want to make sure, and so I set my goals and I train my team and I create processes that are all about making sure I have satisfied customers, right? And at the point that I survey my own customers, they say, yes, I'm satisfied. Right. But you know what? If they have a project that needs to be done and we're just out of capacity, they'll say, oh, well, we'll use another research team. But I have some customers. We have some corporations who have said, if the business performance company is not slated up, let's delay. And they'll delay a project in order to make sure our team works it. Because they prefer us. Why do they prefer us? Here's another term, lagniappe. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so the word lagniappe means that you give people a little extra. So think of, you go to a donut shop, you pay for a dozen of donuts, you walk out, they're all hot and soft, ready to be eaten. When you open the box, oh, look, there's a 13th donut. That's part of the brand of our company. We always leave our customers with a little lagniappe. So here's what you paid for and we're delivering on, but we also have this over here. because we thought this piece of intellect or we thought this trend analysis would help you make excellent decisions. And if you make excellent business decisions, then you will succeed strong.
And these are strategies to win in the game of business.
Playing to win. Because you know what? Every time you show up, you walk into business, people look at you and they say, oh, he's suited up. He's got on his suit. He's got his ball tucked under his arm. The whistle blows. They're like, hey, you look like a player to us. Well, when the whistle blows, you got to bust a move because people will take you down, right? And they won't even be sorry for you. They'll say, well, why did you show up? Why did you suit up and get on the field if you weren't going to play? So it's never about anything other than this. When you walk into business, whether it's your own business or a career, a workplace, you are suited up. People think you are a player. Your only decision is, are you playing to win or
Um,
simply playing not to lose?
oh, are you playing to win?
Or simply playing not to
Simply
lose?
playing not to lose. But why did you come suited up? Okay,
Absolutely.
that
And
just
people don't feel sorry for you. So when you go to work and you hear people say, I'm gonna keep my head down. Yeah, what? That's not gonna save you. Or when you see people dealing with change, and on this end, I'm trying to maximize change. I'm trying to get ahead of change. I'm trying to see what benefits can I accrue? What else can I show my clients as I anticipate this change? Other people are saying, oh, that's not a change. You know, some people said the virus would be over in a week.
yeah.
This is not a big change. Other people run from change. You know, they fight against the change. Mm-mm, not me. Even as a corporate employee, when I heard about a new change that was coming down the pipe, my immediate thing was, okay, let's think about this. How's this going to impact me? What can I do? How can I excel in the midst of this change? Who do I need to know? How are processes going to change? How's that going to impact my role? I'm like all over it. While other people are sitting around saying, I was here when you got here, I'll be here when you leave.
And you hear that a lot. Back to so you come suited up, but you're here, you're playing to win.
Because I know there's only the choice of either I'm playing to win or I'm playing not to lose. So keep your head down, you know, get along, let people like you. People do lots of things in the workplace. People do things in their own businesses where they say, well, it would be better to say to the client that you really need to do X, but I don't think they'll like that. So I'm just going to give them what they paid for. And it's a strategy. It's not one that we use, but it's a strategy.
Wow, this is just I'm feverishly writing notes over here. Satisfied to preferred. Oh my God, that messed me up. And then are you playing? We are suited up. We have on our uniforms, but are you playing to win or just not to lose?
That's right.
That's a whole different mindset when you think
We
about.
did some work years ago for a corporation, and they were growing through acquisitions, but they would get their acquisitions really cheap. And the reason they would get their acquisitions really cheap is that they would brutally go into marketplaces and annihilate the competition, annihilate them.
Okay.
And then they would say, well, there's only a piece of this left. We'll sell it to you for $2, right? Because in their heads, they were not playing to lose. It was all about the only win is where we eat all the market share and we starve our competitors out. And then they offer us their business and their client list and their manufacturing capabilities. And they were very clear and very proud about this is the way we do business. They're playing to win.
Wow. And so we get to this point where we have now found ourselves better positioned when we talk about showing up to do excellence in what it is that we do. And then we shifted into this space of um, being mindful that when we do show up and there's this different ways of succeeding. I love that too. When we
Mhm.
talk about default, struggle, or strategy, keeping that in mind, which impacts, I think, as you mentioned, so much as we move forward, and the decisions that we make, even based off of which of those buckets we fall into. And then we've talked about a number of other things that have been so, I'm telling you, it shifts the mindset. All of this, because we talked about next level customers of yesterday, those of today, and how you shift them to tomorrow, and the land yap,
Lanyap.
which is giving a little extra because it's going back to what you were saying in regards to branding. It's about the experience, and that is part of the experience. Meaning, oh, you know what? You're doing business with Faye. Oh, she's going to not only deliver and cause even you to win, but also she is going to give you a little extra something that you're not going to see coming. And
So may
that,
I offer your audience some lanyap tonight?
please.
Lots of people are still focused on networking. That the way you succeed, the way you grow your business, the way you grow your reputation, it's all about networking. Not so. Next level thinking is this, it's about net weaving.
Net.
So here's an example. When prior to the environment we're in, when my team would look on my calendar and see that I had a luncheon to go to, you know what the first thing is that they would do? They would order me lunch because they know that I understand a luncheon to be a feast of net weaving. I'm going to find out in advance who's going to be there. I'm going to look at that list and say, how can I contribute to this person? How can I do a touch point on that person? How can I invest in this relationship? So when my feet hit the ground, when I walk into the big ballroom, I'm weaving.
So you,
I'm introducing Tom to Tim. I am working it out.
so you're still showing up with your unit with this with the uniform on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do that in all my relationships. You know, when I show up as my authentic self at church, I am who I am. People who have never seen me before, but they're on my intercessory prayer conference call, I am who I am. If you see me outside of Shegog's barbershop, hanging out with the guys, I am who I am.
My
And
dad
I
did.
don't let people bag me down. I don't let people, sometimes I say, oh, is this where you think I'm going to apologize? I don't think so. But because I know my brand, and one of my brand attributes is I am very clear. I am
Do you feel that?
authentic. I am smart. I am innovative. I am spiritual. Some people call it religious. I call it as being a follower of Jesus the Christ. We all have what we do, right? But I know what powers me. I know what gives me energy and what takes energy away from me. I know who I believe in. I know who I belong to. And I always believe, I have a very best friend that tells me all the time, she says, even on your worst day, God is not going to leave you on the side of the road without a cell phone. So there's always something else to do. And since I believe that, I get up and I move my feet and I get it done.
Yeah. Now, and then going back to when you said you had a little sass behind that. I am very, your first characteristic regarding yourself and your brand was I
Yes,
am very clear.
I am very clear.
Do do you feel that people misinterpret that clarity that you proclaim?
My experience is that people react to it. For some, it's to the positive. For some, it's to the negative. Um, but I am very consistent, and that's helpful because if you meet me and I'm not your flavor of Kool-Aid, we can make we can make that clear very quickly. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm not your brand of Kool-Aid, you're probably not my brand either.
And
So I lovingly release you back into the universe and I just move on.
I came back to that because and thank you. Let me back up and say thank you for being transparent, which you are. That is, to me, that was my first interpretation, because I'm like, you came, sat down, you knew exactly what you wanted to do, what you wanted to cover when we first met. Well, when we met one on one, let me put it that
Yeah.
way. And I was like, huh, like, okay, she is here to handle business, even though it was very informal. It was still
Clear.
on brand now that I know you
Mhm.
a little more. And I asked that question because I think sometimes we compromise what can very much be the strength to shift us to play to win or leave us paralyzed in this place where we're just not wanting to lose. And that is so clear to me now that you've said that.
And you know what? Here's what drives me crazy is
We give up our strength.
it is not easier to play not to lose. It takes your spirit, it takes your time, it takes your energy. It is not more difficult to play to win because when you play to win, you're playing your strong suit. You're saying, I am who I was created to be. And in my worst day, I'm still a child of the king.
And you know what's interesting? It's just aha moment, a light bulb moment. You're right. It takes more energy to try to be
It does.
like you're not that person.
Mm-mm.
Like none of us, like we don't wake up to say, oh, like you said, oh, let me go in and see how I can fail today.
And you know what? It's not efficacious. It doesn't work. It's not efficient. It doesn't get you what you want. I tried this. This is not something I heard or read. I tried this in my own career. It was not until I had the epiphany of there are some people who are never going to like me because my hair is too curly and my lips are too thick. It's done. Okay. I've had people walk up to me and say, you walked into this room like you own it. Okay. I didn't say a word. I haven't said hi yet.
But
And you're already dinging me, right?
obviously there was an aura that they picked up on.
Well, you know what? It is what it is.
But that's what I was gonna say. That's their interpretation. That doesn't have to.
And I'll allow them to lovingly have that as I lovingly release them back into the universe to a higher cause. People are fickle. On some days, I don't like me. On some days, I don't like my hair. So I give them grace. I really do. I give people grace.
I
I
understand.
am loving. I am kind. I am empathetic. I am collaborative to the nth degree until you get me to a place where I then have to be clear.
But that works for you. That I mean that,
Yeah.
that as we mentioned earlier, the values, understanding what is what matters to you. And when I say you, I'm talking to all of us. Like I don't think we spend enough time defining that. We kind of stumble into it, and then we're
Right. And you can't, that thing that says to your own self be true. You can't be true to yourself if you never sit with yourself.
so I am in this class that I just taking, and they provided us with an assignment, which was to take on characteristics and strategy of leaders, successful leaders. And
Mhm.
one of the activities that we've had to do, this will be my second week, just so that new, where we have to build in time on our calendar, actually place it on our calendar, which is time for reflection. Time for reflection. Not about not forecasting, not dreaming, not and I realized I said, wow, I do have time blocked out, but it is for planning, forecasting. Who do I need to follow up with? It's strategy,
Mhm.
not reflection. And you're right. Having to sit down, and so what we're doing is in that reflection, how did I show up? What were my emotions with my main events for this week? Um, did I speak up? And how did I speak up? Did I execute confidence? When did I back down and dim my light and why? So it's So this is list of questions that we're going through, and it is for us to keep it going to the. I think it's like what, maybe 6 more weeks of this.
So may I offer you a perspective?
Yeah.
This, I think, would really be noteworthy. What if you sat down and journaled through your life, the highlights in your life, and you said to yourself, I'm going to identify my own secret sauce about how I succeed. I did that and it took a lot of time, but you know what I learned from it is that I have a Fay way to succeed.
I love
I do. And when I am true to my own secret sauce and my own Fay way, I succeed more often. It takes less effort. I am not in internal
it.
conflict.
There.
Yeah, because I can be kind and collaborative and give people grace and be very clear.
But then people are attracted to that because you get it done in excellence.
I
You're
do.
playing to win. You are now preferred. Like
And,
all of this
and
is
I'm killing the unspoken rules and the unseen relationships, and because this is how business really gets done.
and I learned this years ago, right around that time when I mentioned I went and bought all those little men suits. I learned then when your personal brand precedes you and it is one that people want to be around, want to support, which also attracts mentors, which also attracts sponsors. So people will help you.
Yes,
They will help you groom you. They will help you get to the next level when you show up to do your part. But I also realized that there was like that work that I had to initially do
absolutely, absolutely.
to
How
attract.
can you lead a team when you can't lead yourself? You haven't done your own work. Who would go to a psychologist or counselor and walk in and there's no paper on their wall? Because my first question is always, with whom did you do your work? Because I don't want you acting out your isms on my behalf. I want you to be clear on you to put that to the side so you can help me with my deficiencies. So as leaders, we have to do our own work. To be responsible and in charge of and leading our own careers, you have to do your own work. To manage your business, you need to first understand what it takes for that business to work for you. Because it's different from business owner to business owner, from career professional to career professional. But if you dig deep into your own well, oh, that's ground you can stand on.
Yeah, and you can't be shaken easily from that space. Um,
And then you can allow people, like I still wear men's suits if I need to, but I wear them from the position of this is what my client needs, or this is what is called for in this environment. And I can give them grace and walk in with the best man suit they have that day.
oh yeah,
So it doesn't take anything from me. It doesn't dim my light because I'm clear. I am clear that this is something I'm doing, much like football players. You don't do the same strategy every time, right? You got to have different stuff in your playbook. This is what I'm doing to meet my objectives.
but you know your position. Yeah, but you know your position, and you're there to exactly there to win.
When the whistle blows, you better bust a move because I promise you, when the whistle blows, I will be using everything that I have in my cadre to win. And sometimes win just means that I went into the situation or into this relationship and it didn't work. So the win for me is to graciously back out of it. It's like business owners. I have to tell people all the time, all money is not good money.
Correct.
There are some clients that you don't need, that you don't need. There are some customers that you need to walk out of your retail outlet because all money is not good money. And you have to be clear on what you need and where your best customers are so that they will then get an experience that will allow them to prefer to do business with you.
This has been amazing. One last question. You have the platform right now to convey a message to leaders. And leaders, we're going to talk about the, corporate, organization, nonprofit, entrepreneur, small biz, leaders, faith-based. What one message would you give that group of leaders, this group of leaders and emerging leaders in regards to showing up at their best?
The best way to be highly effective for yourself, your team, your company, your organization is for you, much like building a house. Who builds a house without first pouring the concrete? Do your own work. Find out what moves you, find out what your talent and skill bases are, find out what it is you need to be the very best you can be every time you walk out into this field to play the game of business. And then stay true to that.
Wow. Thank you so much. How can people find out more? Because I could hold you hostage. I'm just a sponge when I'm in your presence.
Well, thank you very much. And again, the most wonderful thing for me about this is that if I had a megaphone, if I could put up billboards, I really believe, not from what I read, but from experience, that people who look like me don't even know that they're not getting a fair shot. And because they lack information and intellect, like people go into mentoring situations, and rarely have I found anyone in any of our seminars, webinar, in anything that I've ever done, have I ever found anyone who even heard these words. You must be mentor attractive. You must be mentor attractive. There is something called being mentor attractive that will then pull to you the kind of mentors that you want. Mentoring relationships, they're not just about people above you doing you a favor. No, there's a structure to them.
Yeah, even John Maxwell in his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I think it's law number 9. Yeah, that's how much I've read. I think it's law number 9, the law of magnetism.
Yes.
You're going to attract who you are. You're gonna
Only if you are being steeped in who you really are. That's why
even
authenticity
if you're not,
is
because
my
you're gonna
number one brand.
yeah, even if you're not steeped in who you think you need to be, you're gonna be attracting those who aren't either.
Right.
Yeah. And not necessarily mentors, because a lot of times there's so much research that shows even women, especially women of color,
Yeah.
end up with peers who switch to, it's not a mentorship relationship, it is a social opportunity.
And there's a difference between those.
It is.
And that goes back to people who would not ever even think about turning down a promotion when it's not really a good time, they're not ready or whatever. All mentors that come to you need to be vetted. You spend so much time saying, oh, he's 3 levels above me, he wants to mentor you. Well, let's just think about this for a minute.
I always say it's just like dating. And then I mean like old, not dating. I'm sorry, courting. Courting is
a different thing.
Go back old school. Like take the time. Take the time. That's your future. But how can people get in touch with you? I know we have kept you. I don't want to prolong
You
it.
can always reach me on LinkedIn. You can always reach me through our website, which is businessperformanceco.com. So businessperformanceco.com. And you can also email me. My personal email address is fay.fleming, the number 1, at gmail.com. And if you reach out, I'll respond.
Awesome. This has been so fabulous. Thank you so much for this wisdom. I have like scribbled notes all over my notes. So I'm gonna have to go back and unpack all of this.
You are always welcome. And you know what? It is my pleasure because I clearly understand that talent is only given in service of other people. So it really doesn't profit me anything to keep everything I've learned in the last 20 years to myself. I am grateful for your being gracious enough to have me on your show. And hopefully, people will hear some things and actually move their feet.
Yes, wonderful. Get in the game, play to win.
Play to win.
One quote we'll wrap up with, Theodore Roosevelt said, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to Conversations in the Nick of Time, powered by Sparkman Pathways to Careers and KSCO 690 AM. I'm your host, Nikki Roach, and you can always find me on all platforms at Nikki Roach, and also the website nikkiroach.com. Don't forget, you already possess everything you need to be successful. It's just a matter of you stopping to understand you have to live out success as you define it. Engage your hand, heart, and your head as you move forward because you've already got it. You've already won. In the meantime, go be blessed and pay it forward. And don't forget, play to win. Till next time, bye bye.